Hello, English learners. Welcome to another inspiring story that will help you improve your English while learning about one of history's most remarkable figures. Today, we're exploring the extraordinary life of Nelson Mandela, a man whose courage and determination changed South Africa and inspired the world. Nelson Raleigh Halola Mandela was born on July 18, 1918, in the small village of Umvizo in South Africa. He was born into the Vembu royal family, and his father was a local chief. The name Raleigh in his native language actually means troublemaker, a name that would prove quite fitting for his future role as a revolutionary. As a young boy, Mandela attended a local missionary school where his teacher gave him the English name Nelson, a common practice in those days. He was the first person in his family to receive a formal education. Mandela was a bright student who loved learning and had big dreams for his future. After his father's death when he was just 9 years old, Mandela was taken under the wing of the Vembu regent, Chief Jongintaba, who ensured he received a good education. Mandela attended the Clarkberry Boarding Institute and later the Wesleyan College in Fort Beaufort, where he excelled in his studies. In 1939, Mandela enrolled at the University College of Fort Hare, one of the few places where Black Africans could receive higher education. It was here that he first became involved in student politics and met many future leaders of the anti-apartheid movement. However, Mandela's time at Fort Hare was cut short when he was expelled for participating in a student protest. He returned home, only to learn that Chief Jongintaba had arranged a marriage for him. Not wanting to be forced into marriage, Mandela fled to Johannesburg, where he would begin a new chapter in his life. In Johannesburg, Mandela found work as a guard at a mine, and later as a clerk at a law firm. While working, he completed his bachelor's degree through correspondence courses, and then began studying law at the University of Witwatersrand. During this time, South Africa was deeply divided by a system called apartheid. Under apartheid, people were classified according to their race, and non-white South Africans were treated as second-class citizens. They couldn't vote, had to live in separate areas, and had limited access to education and jobs. Mandela joined the African National Congress, ANC, in 1944, and became one of its leaders. The ANC was fighting against apartheid and for equal rights for all South Africans. At first, Mandela and the ANC used peaceful methods of protest, like marches and strikes. But the government's response to these peaceful protests was often violent. In 1960, police shot and killed 69 peaceful protesters in what became known as the Sharpeville Massacre. Following this tragedy, Mandela concluded that peaceful resistance alone would not end apartheid. In 1961, Mandela helped form Umkhonto we Sizwe, or Spear of the Nation, the armed wing of the ANC. They carried out sabotage against government buildings and infrastructure, but were careful to avoid causing any human casualties. The South African government labeled Mandela a terrorist, and in 1962, he was arrested and charged with sabotage and attempting to overthrow the government. During his trial, Mandela delivered his famous "I am prepared to die" speech, in which he explained his ideals and his willingness to sacrifice his life for freedom and equality. On June 12, 1964, Mandela was sentenced to life imprisonment. He would spend the next 27 years in prison, 18 of those on Robben Island, a harsh prison off the coast of Cape Town. Prison life was incredibly difficult. Mandela was forced to do hard labor in a limestone quarry, which damaged his eyesight from the glare of the sun on the white stones. He was allowed only one visitor and one letter every 6 months, and his letters were heavily censored.
Despite these harsh conditions, Mandela remained dignified and continued his education behind bars. He studied by correspondence and earned a Bachelor of Laws degree from the University of London. He also became a mentor to younger prisoners and maintained his commitment to equality and justice. During his imprisonment, Mandela became a powerful symbol of resistance against apartheid. People around the world called for his release, and the slogan "Free Nelson Mandela" became famous globally. By the late 1980s, international pressure on South Africa to end apartheid was growing. Economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation were taking their toll on the country. The South African government began secret negotiations with Mandela while he was still in prison. On February 11, 1990, after 27 years behind bars, Nelson Mandela walked free. People around the world watched on television as he raised his fist in triumph, with his wife Winnie by his side. It was a moment that many thought they would never see. Mandela immediately returned to his role in the ANC and began negotiations with President F.W. de Klerk to end apartheid and establish a multiracial democracy in South Africa. For their efforts, Mandela and de Klerk were jointly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993. In April 1994, South Africa held its first democratic elections in which all adults, regardless of race, could vote. The ANC won by a landslide, and on May 10, 1994, Nelson Mandela became the first black president of South Africa. As president, Mandela could have sought revenge against those who had imprisoned him and enforced apartheid. Instead, he chose reconciliation. He established the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which allowed both victims and perpetrators of apartheid to tell their stories and seek healing. Mandela also used sports to unite the country. In 1995, South Africa hosted the Rugby World Cup. Rugby had traditionally been a sport favored by white South Africans, but Mandela encouraged all South Africans to support the national team, the Springbok. When South Africa won the tournament, Mandela, wearing a Springbok jersey, presented the trophy to the team captain, Francois Panara, a powerful symbol of national unity that was later depicted in the film Invictus. After serving one term as president, Mandela stepped down in 1999, setting an example for democratic leadership in Africa. He continued his work for peace and social justice through the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Nelson Mandela passed away on December 5, 2013, at the age of 95. His death was mourned around the world, and his funeral was attended by nearly 100 world leaders, one of the largest gatherings of its kind in history. Nelson Mandela's life teaches us many valuable lessons. He showed that one person can make a difference in the world through determination and courage. He demonstrated the power of forgiveness and reconciliation. Most importantly, he proved that even after decades of oppression and injustice, positive change is possible. In his autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom, Mandela wrote, "For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others." This powerful quote reminds us that true freedom comes with responsibility toward others. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the inspiring life of Nelson Mandela. We hope you enjoyed improving your English while learning about this remarkable historical figure. Remember, as Mandela once said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Keep practicing your English, and we'll see you in our next story. If you enjoyed this lesson, please like and subscribe for more educational content. Until next time.